As great as single player games can be, there's a certain type of joy you can only get from multiplayer games. I mean, Super Metroid is one of my favorite games, but you'll never see me doing this while playing it. Multiplayer allows video games, sometimes thought of as a very non-social, isolated in a dark room type of activity, to become a very social activity. And you can even still do it in a dark room if you want to. Who wants to play Mario Kart with me? Naturally, the biggest trick to pulling off a great multiplayer gaming session is to have other people to play with. Wait a second, other people? Oh yeah, I think I remember those. Odds are you know some of them, and at least some of them are people who play video games. Trouble is getting everyone together. Sure, you've got friends to play games with, but are they available to play at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night for 30 minutes, right after you finally finished washing the dishes, taking your dog outside to poop, but it kept doing pump fakes and not actually going, so it took longer, then buying those one or two cleaning supplies you almost didn't remember, but then forgot your Sweetie Pie's Amazon password, but really needed it because you need that overnight Prime shipping, so you spent half an hour sorting that out, but then finally got it? Well, maybe, but then they still need to get over to your house. The fact is, the inconvenience of getting people together in order for multiplayer to happen caused the industry to just transition to online multiplayer. Nobody you know can play multiplayer right now? No problem. Plenty of people you don't know can. Don't bother me, I'm socializing right now. But I still say that having multiplayer sessions with a room full of people you know is going to be the most fun you can have, and I know I'm not alone in thinking that. In any case, the games I choose will be based on these types of experiences, and we're probably looking at 4 players or more. First game on my list, coming in at number 5, is ChuChu Rocket for the Sega Dreamcast. Most of the games I choose tend to require ideal circumstances in order to be enjoyed to the fullest extent, but for ChuChu Rocket, this isn't the case quite as much due to how easy the controls and concept of the game is to jump into. Basically, all you need to learn how to do is be a complete jerk, a skill that comes in handy for a lot of multiplayer games. In this game, you use the D-pad to move your cursor, you use each of the 4 buttons to place arrows in the corresponding 4 different directions, and you use your head to laugh like a maniac as you send a cat into your opponent's rocket. From there, it's pretty simple. Each of the 4 players has a different colored rocket, and you want to guide as many mice as you can into your rocket while keeping the cats away from your rocket. Whoever has the most points when the timer runs out wins, but here's the fun part. You also want to guide as many cats as possible into your opponent's rockets while guiding the mice away from their rockets. This is where you can really hone your being a jerk skills. Personally, I enjoy intercepting a direct line of mice headed for one of my opponent's rockets that redirects straight into my own rocket, essentially stealing them. But really, this game comes down to the cats. They're the easiest way to flip a game since they subtract so many points from each rocket they go into. Trust me, you will gain a healthy respect and fear for the cats. And you'll learn a thing or two about your friends. I've seen it all. Some of the most mild-mannered, kindest people you've ever seen are suddenly treating the cats like their own personal heat-seeking missiles. I've even seen some people who don't even care about winning. They just want to see cats go into other people's rockets. I mean, I consider myself a pretty non-competitive person, but even I can't deny the joy of everybody ganging up on the current leader to brute force cats into their rocket as they beg for mercy. Mercy that never comes. Alright, next game on the list is Saturn Bomberman. Remember when I said most of the games on my list require ideal circumstances? Well, for this game, to maximize the number of players it can support, which is 10, you need the game itself, 2 Saturn multi-taps, 10 Saturn controllers, and perhaps the trickiest thing of all, 10 people all ready and willing to play it at the exact same time. 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night probably ain't gonna be it. Bomberman is one of those games where People say if you have played one of them, you've played all of them, and I'd say that if you have Saturn Bomberman, it's just as good as having them all, as this is often considered the best one. We'll have to see how much people like Super Bomberman R2 as time goes on, but if nothing else, this will probably always be the best 2D Bomberman game that uses sprite work. Using the classic multiplayer formula of screw over the other players while keeping yourself safe, it doesn't take long to get invested into a multiplayer match of this game. Lots of different play styles you can go for as well. You can be super aggressive, you can be super defensive while letting everyone else eliminate each other, you can form alliances, or you can disconnect somebody's controller amidst all the chaos. But be careful, make sure it's not your own. I've seen it happen before. Don't forget about the option to create teams either. I find that's an often overlooked way of playing this game that can be a lot of fun. Next game on the list would be Four Swords Adventures, yet another game that requires a bunch of stuff. Although, for what it's worth, it's still a fun game in single player, but if you want to play 4-player mode in this game, you'll need the game itself, 4 Game Boy Advances, 4 cables to connect the Game Boy Advances to a GameCube, as well as 4 people to play. I suppose if you're hanging out at a Game Boy Advance collector's house, then you'd be good to go. It's essentially the experience of playing an awesome 2D Zelda game, but with friends. Gone are the days of playing Zelda, inviting a friend over and saying, okay, now watch me play. They can play too, unless you're determined, in which case, where there's a will, there's a way. But for this game, you'll want friends who are trying to work with you, not against you. I mean, you can work against each other, but it gets annoying real fast, and I wouldn't recommend it. This experience is at its best when everyone has a really good cooperative attitude, like agreeing to leave the window open after using the bathroom. It's not so much a grand sweeping adventure the way other Zelda games are, as the game is divided into stages, but I think it works well as a way to designate good starting and stopping points. When playing with a group of people, it's not uncommon that you need to break up the playtime into sessions, because somebody has to pee, has a phone call they need to take, or has to go to the hospital because they got punched in the face for eating the last banana. These are all things that just happen sometimes. Next game on the list is You Betcha Nintendo Land, baby. Haha, you better believe it. I've talked about this game before and how I think it's incredibly overlooked and insanely fun to play. Again, a game that requires ideal circumstances. The first thing you'll need to play this game is a Wii U, and well, I could stop right there as not many people have a Wii U, and even less people have a Wii U that hasn't died of heartbreak. I actually play my Wii U, give it a little massage every now and then too. It's the depression that makes its joints ache. You'll need some Wii remotes as well, but the star of the show is the gamepad that the person running away from everyone will use. At least in Mario Chase, that's how it works. Mario Chase is the best minigame in Nintendo Land to me, but there's still some other good ones too. The Luigi's Mansion game is pretty solid. I really wish more games like this would be made. It makes me think of something that would be fun in real life, but having it in video game form evens the playing field and creates ideal courses you can play on. Not to mention, it's actually a really great use of the gamepad since it allows the player running away to have their own screen and hide their movement from everyone else. Heck, you can even hide from everyone in your living room while you're at it. I can't recommend it enough. Alright, but now we get to my number 1 choice, and you know, there's been a lot of really good Mario/Nintendo multiplayer games over the years, many of which could be eligible for a list like this, but if I had to pick the one that I feel generates the most fun with a group of people, my choice would be Nintendo Land again! Ha ha! Just kidding. Mario Party 2, and just hear me out. While games like Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. Are probably better games overall, as well as games that I would say are more impressive in most of the typical categories you'd think of. Here's the thing about playing multiplayer games. Because a lot of the experience comes from the people you are playing it with, the reactions, the commentary, the collective energy of the group, the game is simply a platform for all of that to come to life. No multiplayer game I've ever played before brings out the kind of rage, laughter, triumph, crying, screaming, just about any kind of emotion you can think of, quite like Mario Party. The game can be unfair, it can be cheap, it can involve luck, it can involve skill that results in success that is then taken away because of somebody else's luck. Remember when I said all the games on my list require ideal circumstances? Well, Mario Party requires 4 players who won't want to kill each other, and an ability to understand it's just a game. This might be one of the few ones that I wouldn't recommend to kids, at least not in good conscience. And maybe you think you're pretty cool-headed, in which case you're probably also somebody who's never had a star stolen from you in Mario Party. Besides the ghosts you can use to steal stars, it's called Chance Time, people. Chance Time is where your hot streak or cold streak can go flippity-dippity. I once had my 3 stars swapped with Dirty Dog Luigi, who had 0 stars at the time. So I essentially had 3 stars stolen from me. And here's the thing, Yoshi was the one that hit the blocks, so I couldn't even really be mad at Luigi for it. I was still mad at Luigi for it. It might seem broken and crazy for some people, it might just seem way too unfair. Playing well in the minigames definitely helps, but it's no guarantee. But I give the game credit for always being exciting. Each game you play is interesting every time because you never know what's going to happen. You never feel out of it, and you never feel safe because the tide of the game could swing at any moment. In Smash Brothers, it's always your one dingus friend who plays as Pikachu just whooping everyone's butt. In this game, who knows, and the stars awarded at the very end can shake things up even further. I'm guessing most people won't agree that this is the best multiplayer game of all time, but not once have I played this game where it wasn't extremely entertaining, and that's why it's my #1 pick. I'd argue that trying to choose the best multiplayer game is even more subjective than the best single-player game because the experience you have isn't just based on your own, it's based on everyone else's as well. The more fun everyone is having, the more likely you are to have fun too. Unless you're one of those people who just wants to dominate while everyone else suffers, in which case you're not welcome at my house. With that said, I'd love to hear which game you would choose, so let me know, as well as what you thought of the games I chose. As always, I look forward to reading your comments, and I will see ya in the next video.
He's the Retro Bird, yeah, and he's talking about video games. He's the Retro Bird, oh yes, and he hopes that you like